In 2016, former lead game designer Caroline Marchal, who worked at Quantic Dreams on titles such as Fahrenheit, Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls, decided to leave the hubbub of TripleA games development behind to start her own studio in London. 6 years later, their first project, As Dusk Falls, a narrative choice and consequence adventure, was born, receiving critical success and awards galore. We recently caught up with Caroline and studio director Charu Desot to talk about how the studio came to fruition, the obstacles they had to overcome and much more. A journey that started with an idea in 2014.
Okay, shoot.
So I came to the UK in 2014, so a couple of years before setting up the studio. I worked at PlayStation for a bit, and then I just had like my second child, and I had this really cool concept I believed in. And I thought, well, I'm going to try this for a bit because I really believe in this game, and if it doesn't work, I'll find something else. So I gave it a shot for a year, bootstrapped it, pitched it around, and once we got a deal lined up, I told everybody I had lined up like for the team, like this is happening, come over, and everybody joined.
So the idea for the game came a long time before the studio?
I'd say, yeah, a couple of years before the studio was set up.
In 2016 then, Interior Night was born. But what were the ambitions for the studio?
Our ambition, I'm a game designer, right? So I love games. But I love the medium because I think it's really, really powerful and unique, especially how you experience story through video games is like incomparable to any other medium. It just gives you such a deep experience because you reflect on your own values, how you make decisions, the people you play with, you understand their point of view better. It's a great empathy engine. So I'm really, really passionate about like designing ways to experience and interact with stories and characters in new ways. So that's like what we are about, and the vision for the studio, our future, like what we really want to do is try and bridge this world of TV and games and really bring interactive stories into the mainstream. Whether you're gamer or non-gamer is kind of irrelevant, but like allowing these people and you to play with people you love and experience like interactive stories and interesting storylines.
Charu Desot, studio director, was one of the first to buy into Caroline's mission, and she was instantly sold on As Dusk Falls concept.
When I first spoke to Caroline, I met her at a cafe during my lunch hour. This is while I was production director at another studio, and she talked about a game which had really deep, meaningful stories, and it was a game that you could play with people that you love, even if they weren't traditional gamers. I love this idea. She showed me a really short video, which was kind of like a proof of concept of the idea, and but it's also meeting Caroline, something that really kind of sold the whole idea and the vision of the studio to me.
As Dusk Falls is a choice and consequence game, something that Caroline has worked on her time at Quantic Dream. She reflects on the DNA of the studio.
I think what is in the DNA of the studio, because you're right, there are many ways to create and experience interactive stories. Choice and consequence is one way of doing it. I think what the studio is really about is multiplayer interactive stories and approachable, because like stories are by essence communal, and when you can interact and with a story with people you love, it's very, very strong, and it's a unique experience.
Of course, going from TripleA to TripleI, as in Triple Indie, are two completely different experiences. Caroline and Charu reflected on these differing experiences.
I think the scale of production and the team size and budget is the obvious one. When you go from a TripleA, you've got like all these constraints of like how big is the team, but also all these means, you can do loads of user tests, and you've got a massive art team who can bring to life your vision, so it's great in a way. But then it gets harder to steer the boat. It takes longer, it costs more money. When we're TripleI or AA, however you want to call it, like the team is leaner, you can iterate faster. You can change course if something feels not right. And also, I mean, personally, the thing I really love is like knowing everybody on the team, like really intimately, like in a sense, like you know everybody's name, you know what they're doing, what they're about, how to best communicate with them. And everybody you have on the team, you kind of, you know, it's not someone filling a seat, it's people who really join your team because they love what the studio is about and what the games you are making as well. Like it's not, oh, it's prestigious to be in that studio, so I'm gonna be there for a while. Like we're not prestigious at all, like we're just like being radical in a way.
So I guess that, say, Quantic Dream, there's hundreds and hundreds of staff, that there wasn't the kind of the intimacy where you didn't know everybody on the team kind of thing.
I think Quantic Dream is, at least the time when I was there for over a decade. It grew from like 30-ish people on Fahrenheit to 150, let's say, for Beyond Two Souls. And now it's a much bigger studio, so I can't speak for what it is now. But at the time it was kind of, I think, an outlier in terms of TripleA studio, because it was still small and very creative driven and quality driven. We're creating new IPs every time, trying to push the boundaries, and it's something I've definitely taken on board. I feel very spoiled when I'm saying that. Like I'm like, oh yeah, here at Interior Night we're only going to be making like new IPs and try and be innovative and be super bold and not be afraid. And I think that comes from this culture.
Oh, running an independent game studio is really quite different from being at a huge matrix organisation, which have their own platform and make their own IP. I think I like both of those experiences have been so hugely valuable and completely shaped my way of making games. When you're running your own indie studio, you can really sort of tailor the whole studio and the team to the ambition. And you keep going back to the ambition, and it's about making sure that you're making the thing that everyone really feels passionately about. It's never about kind of bums on seats. It's more sort of handpicking the skills, and I think we've been able to take more risks in the people that we hire, trying to hire in film professionals, sort of like bring that nuanced interpretation of the script. So
in turn, then I guess more creativity, more chance to spread your wings, so to speak, as opposed to being like say, bums on seats kind of things.
Yeah, definitely more of a chance of being creative, also being really ambitious and really sort of like, you know, honing your skills towards that particular ambition and taking more risks. Making a video game is always risky, whether that's like a huge corporation or a small indie studio. But when you're making something that you feel sort of is a very personal project to you, you need to be able to take risks, both in the creativity, the processes behind how you make the game, and also, you know, how you release it and how you position it.
Starting a UK development studio in the UK, a country that's not exactly welcoming to new developers, could have been a challenge. However, the UK development community helped with the transition.
I don't know if you're gonna like my answer, because coming from France at the time, like there wasn't any world where I was thinking I could be an entrepreneur in France. Like it wasn't a thing at the time. It might be down to me because I was younger, I don't know. But coming here, what I found was like this community and really encouraging network of people who are like really happy to give you advice and support and put you in contact with other people, which I found really vibrant and entrepreneur friendly. So as to the government, like I can't really answer, but in terms of like the spirit of the industry and the entrepreneur spirit here, I find it much more welcoming. Now in terms of tax and incentives, could always do better. Brexit obviously is not helping. Like in terms of finding talent, less people want to come over now. It makes it harder, of course. and it's a real shame. But in terms of the community and the industry itself, I found it really welcoming and encouraging.
The studio's first title was signed with Xbox Game Studios, hitting Game Pass on day one. Caroline and Charu spoke about how and if Game Pass benefited their debut title.
I think Game Pass in itself is it's more like the partner we had with Xbox Studios, which are, very supportive and hands off in terms of the creative, just like trying to blossom, like help us foster the idea and the game and put it out there in its best condition possible. The localization, we had 22 languages. It's amazing. It's great for approachability of the game. UR testing, the top quality of that, the top quality of the services they can offer. And then Game Pass was good for us because we're being a new IP coming from a new studio nobody's ever heard of before. So it's great, to be put out there. It gives us discoverability, and people who would have never probably tried the game thought, oh, it's there, I'm gonna give it a shot, and maybe they love it, and great. That was really good for us, I suppose.
Game coming out on Game Pass was absolutely brilliant because we knew that it would give so many people the opportunity of playing the game, and also people that might not have traditionally wanted to go out and buy a narrative game, as a first thought. And working with Xbox was fantastic, absolutely brilliant publishing team, and they really allowed us lots of freedom to be as creative as we wanted and be as ambitious as we wanted with the game.
1 year since release, and as Dusk Falls had a barnstorming year since its July 2022 release.
I can't believe that we've won so many awards with our first game. First game for the studio, brand new IP. We got a Games for Impact award at the Game Awards. We were nominated as Best Debut Game at the BAFTAs. And we've just won 2 awards last week, one for innovation in accessibility and the other for innovation in narrative.
So, what does the future hold for Interior Night?
I think we're always trying to push boundaries and create something new. Otherwise, why? Why do it? Making a game takes years. So you don't have that many games in you left. So we're trying to find something new again, something we're really excited about. It's again a narrative project, that's for sure. We're not going to turn around and do a multiplayer shooter suddenly. That would be odd. But yeah, so it's a new narrative experience, and we're trying to invent new things. And project number 2 is the hardest in a way, because you have to top up, plus and spin what you've created already.
This studio is a studio full of really talented people, and I want us to keep doing the mission statement that we have of creating a new type of entertainment, being at that crossover between film, TV and video games, and just continually innovating in the narrative space.